Welcome back to the next part in our week 3 video lecture, COM 4413, Communication and Cultural Change. And we're rounding the corner here, just the first corner, not the last corner, but we're rounding a corner. Corner rounding is an important cultural happening, right? It's an important thing that we engage, keep us moving in the right direction. Got some questions here from John, and John is right. That's John is right. Okay, so I'm gonna bring up John's questions from the Television and American Culture, Chapter 10. Our author, Mattel, states that in America, children have nearly always been linked to commerce. Since social media has entered into our lives, Facebook, Instagram, etc., has this concept changed? If so, how? And I'm going to remind us of an oldie but a goodie. And if you were blessed to be with us in a previous course, or will join us in the future, there is the sacred Marshall McLuhan. Okay, and so Marshall McLuhan's exhausted quotation, perhaps the most shared adage in the history of media studies, is the medium is the message. So is this in terms of an easy out there, John? Advertising, regardless of children's roles, advertising changes with the times based on all the available means of persuasion. And we see all of those available means of persuasion in contemporary decades in the 20th century as mediums, right? Mediums of mass communication. How much did the appearance on the Ed Sullivan Show help Jim Henson's success and his character puppets from Sesame Street? Do you mean Muppets, John? Because I think you mean Muppets. Not puppets, they're Muppets. They're Muppets. Page 397. Is it beneficial for one to be successful by making a guest appearance on another well-known television show? This gets at an important concept that's even more true today. And this is this idea of crossovers crossovers create synergy. All right? And synergy is this important idea of one text interacting with another text, overlapping with another text, and so on. And this is how you diversify an audience. This is not only maybe how you introduce an idea to children that may be in the room watching, but then reverse style, this is how you introduce to parents. Oh, and here's a text your children could be into, or you could be aware of this type of thing, right? And so when we watched, and I can't remember which decade, that tells you something, of the docu-series, the 60s, the 70s, or the 80s, but one of those episodes featured a segment, if not multiple, on The Tonight Show. And for comedians, particularly in the Johnny Carson era of The Tonight Show, that appearance, not only an appearance, but regular appearances and so on, this was the be-all, end-all to legitimizing yourself as a stand-up. There's an excerpt from a few on there that they collectively agree, once you made it there, you've made it. You're official. You're on the map. And so these types of programs, variety shows, talk shows, there were certain ones that did cement status and could create a wave. You think about, you mentioned the Muppets on the Ed Sullivan Show, but when the Beatles appeared, I mean, there were so many instances of certain texts just having that resonance about them. So important to consider. Looking at the complex TV book, John writes, the author makes the statement, quote, I have consciously avoided the label quality television, end quote. Page 210. In your opinion, why would he make this statement? What would your definition be of quality television? So yes, we alluded to this earlier in the lecture, that Mattel wants to intentionally diversify what he's talking about in terms of complex TV, complex seriality from quality TV. There's a couple of reasons why, okay? That this would be, what the author intends to do. First of all, this is the term quality TV. I think of its association with TV critics, although there was some scholarly uses of the term. In fact, and there's no fly here. I'm just looking around, trying to think. There was a book entitled Quality TV, and now I've just got a twitch wondering if and where that might be. But this is a term that, let's just say, already had some terrain staked out by other scholars. And so what Mattel's doing, this is an excellent learning opportunity for us, is he's practicing the art of recognizing language, terms, uses others have brought before him, and then he's making his addition to the conversation to say, and I want to talk about it, this strand of it. But there's some fine tune. There's an excerpt I'll pull up in just a second that really articulates his position a couple of pages down. But thinking about that, sometimes there's a term that's more catchy, more trendy with the TV critics, right? Sort of that journalism side of things, and then there might be that academic side where they have slightly different variations of words, but they could also mean quite a bit different as well. He also compares quality TV. That term is highly subjective, or it's culturally based on degrees of taste. And sort of that's a segmented thing. Once again, the initial part of our talk today was about the segregation that we can, the socioeconomic segregation that's embedded within the cultural history of television and American audiences, and how divisive that could be. This is along the same lines, right? That maybe the critical term quality TV doesn't quite give us what the complex TV term does. But let me move over to page 216 and see if I marked the quotation here. He sort of answers your question here, and notes that it's important to emphasize that they're not synonymous with one another, and he's arguing that complex TV does not equal background noise, right? It's something to kind of drink in and process and reflect on. Okay, so he's building a case here. Okay, so one frequent objection to evaluation, I'm going to skip over that. Okay. Fully engaged. Oh yes, that complex TV suggests that the consumer of complexity should engage fully and attentively. Attentively. It would be for the streaming viewer, right? Be attentive. And such engagement will yield an experience distinct from more casual or partial attention, all right? So pay attention. Lost isn't just, or at least it used to not just be that show you put on and just let the episodes run while you're doing other stuff, filing your taxes, all right? It's a show you turn the lights off, put everyone to bed, and take a week off of vacation and settle in. And we promise you'll get some answers. Hashtag kidding, not kidding, Kidding, not kidding. Kidding. What? How's that go? It's all right. That's all right. I don't know everything, kids. The writer, Mattel? Jason Mattel mentions that he evaluates and de-evaluates specific television shows in Chapter 6. What is the difference in evaluate and de-evaluate? How could this help from your own perspective of concepts in this course? Okay, so when he's talking about evaluate, this is shorthand for evaluative criticism. Right? Again, value judgments. And to evaluate, this is often linked, and it's demonstrated by Mattel as a comparison and contrast type of mode of writing and analysis. And when he uses that term devaluate, it's kind of an inside joke there. This devaluative criticism is something he is tinkering and toying with in an alternative, once again, piece of scholarship that I was able to track down that he wrote first on his blog and then as part of an edited anthology on Mad Men. And there was a question that came up from someone else about why is he even, what's with the critique of Mad Men or whatever, and we'll get to that in a minute. But when he says devaluate, my initial interpretation was we're looking at a kind of scholarly play on words, right? Some wordsmithing, a reference to that work on Mad Men. But then that got me thinking about something else, and it's a meta performance that Mattel's doing. And perhaps that stresses the quality of including so many Mattel works in a course. It's not that we're trying to flood you with someone's, singular vision of something. It's that what are we able to uncover? We are able to see the many thought patterns, right? Thought experiments and patternistic ways that he's reading and assessing these different texts, and it spans across numerous projects. All right, and so it's something that's manifesting over years. That's one of the values of scholarly work, of continuing to kind of contribute to a given field, right? Once you sort of find that writerly voice. And I know that's a concern that's come up in question form from folks in the past, finding your voice, finding the things you want to talk about, assess. And so something to think about is, what's gained through that process. And Mattel is giving us some examples whereby we can see thought processes unfolding in real time, but also reflections to how maybe his views shift or alter on certain topics. And so that's something to think about, specifically that Mattel is meta-performing complexity, right, within his writings, just as he's writing about the increasingly complex medium of television. Be right back with more Q&A questions.